This workshop in South London's a holy shrine for photographers and for people from all over the world who take a professional interest in the history of the camera. It's here that Fred Gandolfi, helped by his brother Arthur, designs and makes what many good judges reckon are the finest cameras in the world. The Gandolfis are carrying on the tradition of superb craftsmanship begun by their father Louis, who started the business back in 1888. The world through a Gandolfi plate camera. Well, this one may look a bit like a Victorian joke, but in fact, it's a highly efficient working tool, and it's used every day in the ordinary course of his work by Alex Starkey, who takes pictures for Country Life. Now, why this camera, this extraordinary camera?
Well, it's a delightful camera to use. He makes them beautifully, and they're very simple and well made. And they're just lovely things to use.
When was this one made?
Oh, before I was born. It's 50 years old now.
Must be coming to the end of its time.
Yes, it is. I'm having to go metric. And in fact, he's made me a brand new one, which is metric. He rather reluctantly made chrome fittings for me and black bellows. He loves the old brass fittings. He fits in all the specifications which I need to suit my requirements.
Now, if I can't see what the customer wants, I'm in a bit of a flutter. But it's surprising that you can, by thinking round, you can actually see the customer working with that object, and then that's all right. It's a bit of a worry until I get hold of the plane and the piece of wood, and then all is peace. I can go right back 7 years old. You know the thing when a workshop's near you and it's the business is in the family. You go running down, poking your head in the shop. You want to know what your father's doing, what's the name of that piece of wood, and so on. You don't realise that it's sort of going into your head, and though some of it goes out, quite a bit stays behind.
From rough notes of a customer's special requirements, Fred starts his most complicated piece of woodwork, the baseboard.
Now, this planing is in preparation for what we term panelling baseboards. It's peculiar to camera making, and it's originated owing to the fact that cameras became lighter, the wood had to be thinner, and to avoid it twisting and curling, we had to put in a number of pieces of wood rather than using one. There we had the first panel, jointed 3-piece. Now we add a further 2 to the sides, and that will make your half plate. And then, of course, you can go on to the 10x8, which has your 7-piece, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on up to 15-12, which has 11, which has another piece down in the middle there, breaking that up into 5 pieces again. Now, as regards the actual gluing joint, this is done by what we term a loose tongue. Assume that this is that. You take 2 saw cuts on the circular saw, like that, and then you put grooves down on the 2 side clamps, like that, and you take a piece of end grain 3-ply, and that is pushed in like that, with of course glue, and you take the 2, just make certain they're down, tip them sideways like that. You run your glue brush down, you knock them the other way, you run the labour saving, you do both sides at once. Then you take your centre and you take the clamp, mark sides together, same again here. And since they're all glued, we might go straight on to another peculiarity in the line. This goes back about 100 years at least, and it's about the only system which is foolproof, costless, and more or less everlasting.
When the surplus glue's forced out, you've got a joint that's hardly visible apart from the grain. Here's a half-scale model of a finished baseboard showing the next stage, the elaborate brass reinforcements, the angle pieces and the arrowheads. The arrowheads are the trickiest because to let them into the wood you have to cut across the grain. To do this, Fred uses that ancient tool, the holdfast.
Take your woodwork, place it in position. We now tighten up the holdfast, which gives a drawing action and is a very good grip, much better than putting a weight on top. We now score the wood under the brass, slightly undercutting. And you go round your four edges like that. Next tip is choosing your weapons for the cutting out. Nearly all finger control. As you push, you also push down on your chisel so that you don't get a sudden dig. We now use the router, in the trade known as the old woman's tooth, because it looks rather like a picture of a hag with one tooth. Then you move off onto your work. You give a sharp pull on the bottom, like that, round.
In the heyday of the handmade camera, it was worth a Birmingham manufacturer's while to supply the hundreds of small brass fittings the Gandolfis needed. But now these have to be hand-cut and finished on the premises.
Brass work is all mounted on separate blocks, made more or less to the size of your fitting. First you file slightly along your metal, that removes any marks or blemishes. Put a slight bevel on all four sides, and then you take your special emery sticks, paper the brass, remembering to finish with a fine, slow grain down, which helps when you come to lacquering.
Altogether, with the metalwork, the lacquering, the wood machining, the bellows fitting and the French polishing, this is his brother Arthur's speciality, Fred reckons that 10 trades are involved before a camera leaves the workshop.
The baseboard, extension frame. Then we have the body. Then we have the swing back. That's this one. And of course your reversing frame. So. Then we have the swing front, which will be mounted there. And you have your camera front, plus a rise front, plus your cross runners, which will be swung into that. And then you have your lens panel or cross front, and you have your secondary, because being so generous, we always give 2 with each camera. And that makes one complete set ready for polishing.
These cameras aren't antiques. They're in everyday use by commercial and fashion photographers, archaeologists, architects, forensic scientists, and individual specialists like Alex Starkey. And if you're sent to prison, the chances are a Gandolfi camera is going to take your picture for the criminal records. The beautiful finish, the precision, and the lightweight toughness of these cameras make really knowledgeable photographers say Gandolfi in their sleep.
All the time my father spent making cameras, he never had his own outfit. And one day it struck me, last year, or the year before, I think, that I also were running through life making cameras for everybody else and having nothing, not my own outfit. So I just sat together and made this. Now, it will never be used photographically, which sounds a bit odd, but actually it is to safeguard my self-confidence, for soon my fingers will fumble and in my hands lie my life.